Now, as I begin my lecture, let me start by interacting with all of you. Give me some of the basic questions, the basic fundamental questions that science tries to answer. What are the fundamental questions? What are the fundamental questions that science or physics tries to answer? Anyone? Has anyone told you, or have you ever thought, as a student of science and physics, what are the fundamental questions of humankind that science tries to answer? Sorry? Absolutely right. This is number one. Why are we here? Means, why is this life? What is the meaning of life? Correct? Isn't it the fundamental question? And I am very happy that he has used this word, why. It is very, very important. Till now, whatever I have said, does anyone need interpretation? Or is it clear? It's clear, right? So, this is one question. Give me any other option. There are a couple of more questions. Very fundamental. What science is looking at? What physics wants to know? What a physicist?
The structure of matter.
Structure of matter. Wonderful. Отлично. Structure of matter. Fine. One more. Just give me one more.
And nature of interaction.
Nature of what interaction?
Interaction. Any interaction. Maybe classification of interactions.
Nature of interaction. Okay. It's a little confusing, but I'll write it down. An Excellency? Absolutely right. What is the nature of universe? No one knows till now. The nature of universe. Okay? These are the fundamental questions. Some of them, at least a sample. Now, what are the frontiers of modern physics today? What are the frontiers? Where are the scientists working? What are they doing? Give me one or two examples. All of you are doing physics, so you must be interested in finding what are the frontiers of modern physics. Sorry? Sorry, I am not able to catch you. Yeah? Okay, let me give you one or two examples. How many of you have heard of string theory? Do you know about string theory? That is the very frontier of modern physics. What does it try to define? This particular thing. How do different forces interact with each other? What is the linkage between gravitational force, electromagnetic force, and normal force, physical force? These are some of the basic questions that string theory is trying to understand. How many of you have seen or read about another aspect regarding the universe? It says that the available amount of mass and energy which scientists have calculated that should happen in the universe is much larger than the amount which is actually visible. You know this? Right? Visible versus invisible mass and energy. What some people say, negative mass and negative energy. The world is full of negative mass and negative energy. This is what the physicists tell us. Once again I am asking, whatever I have told you till now, is there anyone who does not understand? Everything is very, very simple and very, very scientific. Correct? Okay. Now, let me go to, because I have too many boards, you make use of these. Now, I will touch upon 3 or 4 fundamental facts of physics and science which the scientists have got till now, and I am going to make use of those facts in explanation of Indian philosophy. And I will answer all these questions as to how Indian philosophy looks at these. Okay? Now, I know all of you are students of physics, and philosophy is very far from physics, but you will see that the Indian philosophy, fundamental philosophy of India, is actually not philosophy. It is science. It is mathematics and science. And I will get to that. And this is the basic matter of this lecture, to make you understand that the Indian philosophy is primarily based on scientific facts. What are the theories which I am going to make use of? First of all of you know, it says energy cannot be created or destroyed. Second law of thermodynamics. Is that correct? Second law of thermodynamics says energy can only be transformed, it cannot be created or destroyed. Second, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You know that? Newton's third law. Right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And the third, I'll mix the Einstein's theory and de Broglie's equation, which basically says E equal to mc square, and what is de Broglie's equation? Frequency is equal to h, no. Wavelength is E nu. Correct? I'll basically try and summarize the entire lecture in these 3-4 areas. Okay? Now, first thing about Indian philosophy is that Indian philosophers knew the answers to all these questions. They have the answers. Now, if they have the answers, why didn't they tell everyone? The problem with these fundamental answers and their answers, Andre, why don't you sit down? Sit down, it'll be easier. Is suppose I have all the answers and I want to tell you, I want to give you those answers. When I give you those answers, you will say that I am hallucinating, I am dreaming. Because the answers are not in this 3-dimensional world. Our world is basically 3-dimensional. At the most, we take time as the 4th dimension. We live a life of 70, 80 years, and the time can be taken as another dimension. But the answers to these questions, most of these questions, are not limited to 3 dimensions. Why? I'll give you another example, again from science. Suppose the whole world was only limited to 2 dimensions. The whole world was limited only to 2 dimensions. We were not in the 3rd dimension. This is me, this is you, this is another person. They are all in 2 dimensions. Everyone, the whole world is only 2 dimensions. And we see a line here. This line in our 2-dimensional world should weigh 2 kgs. It should weigh only 2 kg. This is our 2-dimensional world. We are here, you are here, these are the people. We see a line, and this line should weigh only 2 kg. But our scientific invention shows that it is weighing 2 tons. Can you tell me what is the explanation? How can this be explained? This can be explained. Can you even give me an example how it can be explained? We are only in 2-dimensional world, but we see a line which should weigh 2 kgs in this 2-dimensional world, but it is actually found to be 2 tons. What is the explanation? The only explanation can be that it is actually a 2-dimensional reflection of something in the 3rd dimension. We are not in the 3rd dimension, but this is actually a reflection, 2-dimensional reflection of something in a higher dimension. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any question on this? I hope this point is made clear, that this in this 2-dimensional world, there is something which is a reflection of a 3-dimensional world. Isn't this what can happen? When we say that there is an invisible mass and energy in this world, is it not possible that actually you have to go to another 4 or 5-dimensional world, then you will be able to realize everything, what this missing mass is. Does it make sense? Who doesn't believe that it makes sense? It's very logical, very scientific, and very, very physics oriented. We are actually, this missing mass, according to my theory, and believe me, it is only my theory. I have not written any paper on this until now. But my theory says that it is actually a reflection, 3-dimensional reflection of something which is available in a higher dimension, 5th, 6th dimension. And there is another evidence that not everything in this world is only limited to 3 dimensions. Give me an example. What in our world is not limited to 3-dimensional world, which every one of us face every day, but we are not able to realize that it is not a 3-dimensional world? Sorry? No, very simple. Our thoughts, our dreams. Our thoughts are not in 3 dimensions. I have a theory that till now scientists have found that the light is the fastest traveling thing in the world. Actually, that's incorrect. Thoughts are the fastest traveling thing in the world. The moment physicists try and incorporate the speed of thought in our all physics equations, the whole world will change. Thoughts, you can think of today, just now, you can be in Australia. You can think now and you can be in Greenland. Thoughts. And that is not in 3 dimensions. Feelings, dreams, they are all human. But we are not treating them in 3-dimensional world. Is that correct? And that is where this notion of soul in the Indian philosophy comes. we are all human beings only in the three-dimensional world. But there is a higher dimension in which our feelings, our dreams, our thoughts travel, and they remain even after we die. And that is where the question, basic question of life comes. Why are we here? What is life? Where was I before I was born? Who was the person who is me before I was born? What happens to me as a soul when I die? Isn't it a scientific question? That was the question which troubled the Indian scientists or philosophers. And how did they find those answers? How did they find those answers? Because we are not dealing in three-dimensional world. We are dealing in a world which is more than three dimensions, perhaps 5 or 6 dimensions, where feelings also matter, thoughts matter. They remain, and then they again take shape in the form of another man, in the form of rebirth. The soul and rebirth are all interlinked. You must have heard stories. Films are nowadays available which tell you about rebirth. A soul was born and he knows about the previous life. Those were the questions which were answered by the another aspect, very good example. You know, it's difficult to relate here in Belarus because the diversity is not very big. But in India or in any other poor country, one child one, is born in a beggar's family and lives a life of misery, the whole life, of very bad poverty. And child 2 is born in an extremely rich family, lives a life of opulence the whole life of 60-70 years. Tell me, what is the fault of this child 1? Why is he suffering the whole life? He has taken birth. It was not his fault where he was born, in a beggar's family or a rich family. What was the fault of this chap who has to suffer the entire life? Does the modern science answer this question? My own son, who is 24 years old, tells me it's a matter of fate. He is just born there. I know all of you will say that it's just a matter of fate. Why question it? But there has to be a question. Why? Why? That is why I said I am very happy with this word why that you have chosen. Because modern science answers only to the question, what is this? How does this work? But why something exists is no answer. It's not considered a physics question. How many people remember the first chapter in physics? What is the definition of matter? Tell me. What is the definition of mass? It does not say why mass exists. It only says a mass is an entity which weighs, which has a dimension, this, that. It explains what is mass. It does not say why mass exists. Time. Why does time exist? Look at the physics book that you have. Time is explained only as an interval of 2 events. Time is an interval. This is what they say in physics. But why does time exist? Is not even considered a scientific question. Am I correct or not? That is the real answer. The why is answered by the Indian philosophers. Why? Why do we exist? Why does time exist? Those are the questions that are answered by the Indian philosophers. And because these questions are not limited to three-dimensional world, the answers are also not limited to three-dimensional world. And when the answers are not in three-dimensional world, it cannot be written. It cannot be explained. Then how do you know? It has to be realized. And that realization comes through meditation. Meditation is the tool through which you do an experiment. It is an experiment, remember. I am not asking you to do any philosophical thing. It is just like an experiment we do in physics, chemistry, biology. We do an experiment, we have an hypothesis. We have a hypothesis and we make an experiment and we find the results. If the results are okay, we say hypothesis was correct. So my hypothesis is that you have answers to all questions. This is the hypothesis. You have to do an experiment. And what is the experiment? Go into meditation. Meditate. And once you meditate and you do not find these answers, then we will say that this hypothesis was wrong. But there are hundreds, thousands of Indians who have done this meditation. And they have found all those answers. And they have written down how to reach to that stage when you get those answers. They cannot tell you the answers because the answers are to be realized by each person. Till the time each person realizes that answer, there is no end. There is no way you can understand that. But they told you, and these are the things which have been written in the Vedas or other books of Indian scriptures. The Vedas tell you only how to prepare yourself, what to do, how to go on the path of finding the truth. And the truth, in my opinion, is answers to all these questions. Anyone who knows the answers to all these basic scientific questions becomes God, because God is nothing but absolute knowledge. And that is why in the Indian philosophy, God is not a unique person. No. In Indian philosophy, God is absolute knowledge. And in this, suppose this is absolute knowledge, there are thousands of ways to reach there. There are no unique way. It can be Christianity, it can be Buddhism, it can be Jainism, it can be Judaism, it can be Hinduism, it can be Islam. Within Hinduism, there are thousands of gods. 64,000 gods are there in Hinduism. Because it doesn't matter. The names do not matter. What matters is the absolute knowledge. You can give it any name. You only have to search for that absolute knowledge. And path to get that absolute knowledge can be hundreds. Anyway, Christianity is fine. That is why Hinduism, the Indian philosophy, has no friction with any religion in the world. We know that there is no God but absolute knowledge. And anyone can get that absolute knowledge through any means. It's fine, absolutely fine. The moment you reach this absolute knowledge through any way, you will know absolutely correctly that all these divisions in this world are nonsense. We have divided ourselves, but we are all part of the same God, so-called God. And that God, that absolute knowledge is super consciousness. In Indian philosophy it is given this name, super consciousness. Fine, I don't really mind any name that can be given. But it's only knowledge. Knowledge about this entire universe. And when, again it is my hypothesis, when you meditate, the higher, the deeper the meditation goes, you actually move into another dimension. And when you are in another dimension, this three-dimensional world becomes a child's play for you. You have all the answers of this three-dimensional world. I'll give you another example. We are in three-dimensional world. We know that a two-dimensional world can exist like this, it can exist like this, it can exist like this, it can exist like this. But if there is only two-dimensional world, they will have no idea as to what the third-dimensional, two-dimension can look like. You see? So if you are in a higher dimension than this three-dimensional world, you have absolute knowledge of every aspect of this three-dimensional world. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Meditation. It seems so hypothetical, but once again I am repeating, we have an hypothesis, scientific hypothesis. I want you to do an experiment, just an experiment. You do it and then you see the result. If you do not find the answer, we will say the hypothesis was wrong. But you already know from the history that many people in this world, especially Indians, thousands of Indians, have got this knowledge. And the funny thing once again is that if I know the answer, I cannot tell anyone. I can only tell them how to reach there. But the knowledge is such that it cannot be transcribed, given. It has to be realized. Now, why I'll come to this question about this child 1 and child 2. How do you explain? And what does Indian philosophy say about this? You know, there is very simple explanation. Very simple. One has to accept this, and one can know about this only through getting this absolute knowledge. But the fact which has been written in the Indian scriptures, in the Indian philosophy, comes from these basic equations. Energy cannot be destroyed or created. So the basic question to answer and to know is, what is that absolute energy from which we all got created? Because it is true that we all are only getting transformed from one shape of energy into another shape. Body is taking birth and it goes into this ground by engraving, or by Hindus burn it or whatever. But what happens to our thoughts and our feelings, our dreams, our consciousness? That still remains, and that is the energy which is not destroyed, which goes into another dimension, stays there and again comes back to earth, unless we do enough to get out of this cycle of life and birth. What can we do? I will come to that. Newton's third law, action and reaction, is the answer to that question. When we are in this life, we are doing hundreds of things. We do actions. We do karma. It's called karma. In Indian philosophy, we are doing karma, actions. And each action that we do has to have an equal and opposite reaction. That reaction we are bound to get, because whatever we do today, we will get those reactions either in this life or in some other life. That is the reason why this boy who was born in a beggar's family is doomed to have a beggar's life, because what he has done in his previous lives has to be repaid back. And the person, the boy who was born in a rich family, has done something wonderful in his previous lives. He is being paid back. The reaction is good, and that is why he is born in a rich family. Now, there is another concept in the same theme. If I do something good to you or to you, I am earning a debt. I am taking something from you or you, I am getting a debt. This debt has to be counterbalanced, either in this life or in some other life. Remember, the moment you are able to help someone, The moment you are able to help someone, it automatically means that in some other previous life, that soul has helped you. And nature has made it in such a way that in this life you are able to help. That cycle of debt, payment and repayment can never end. But the Indian philosophy says that yes, it can. And the only way it can be done is that when I give something to someone, I do not give the credit to myself. I do not give that credit to myself. I say that I am doing this on behalf of the God. He has allowed me to give this debt back. I am not the doer. The moment I am not the doer, there is no debt. That is one of the reasons why Indians become vegetarians. Because the moment you cut someone, you are earning a debt. In some other life, that animal is going to cut you. That is the cycle that we talk of. Whatever action we do, it has to come back to us. The only way we can do away with this is by discrediting ourselves. We are doing something good to you or to you, but I am not taking the credit. It is happening through me. That's it. And then we slowly finish all our debts over one life or two lives, and finally we get into the notion of nirvana, which is going back to the absolute consciousness. That is the ultimate purpose of this life. I want to stop here for some time, give you time to reflect and ask questions. I'll come back to some more things, little more detailed things.
And the question, why do we need them?
Exactly. If you do not need them, then you suffer. And then the question remains unanswered. If somebody is in a bad situation, what is the person's fault? If someone is born in a beggar's family, what is his fault? You are fine as long as you are good. You have a rich family, you have a good, rich life. If everything is fine, no problem. And that is the fault with everybody, especially those who are rich. They are not bothered about philosophy, and they are not bothered about religion, because it doesn't matter to them. Right? Now, once again, it's a very good intervention that he has made. I am extremely happy that somebody got up and got these feelings cleared, because it's very important to understand. This three-dimensional world has its limitations. We need to know whether it is correct to try and go to another dimension and try and find answers to some unanswered questions. And I have told you unanswered questions. I have told you the frontiers of knowledge. I have also told you some. Let me take this 1 second to explain about this. I have not touched upon this. In the Indian philosophy, amazingly, it says we all are made of the same thing. Everyone, whether it is desk, us, chalk, car, or animal, or trees, everything is made of the same thing. They are all reflections of consciousness. In philosophy it says God. I am not bothered, because I am a scientist myself. I am not bothered about naming everything as God. But it is correct, and this explains everything, because energy is nothing but a matter of mass. All energy, all mass that you see is actually electromagnetic energy of one frequency or the other. And any electromagnetic wave in the world, any electromagnetic wave has a frequency, and because of the frequency it has energy. Actually it is energy. Because of energy, frequency at which it moves, it has an energy, and the energy is another form of mass. So everything in this universe is actually electromagnetic wave of one nature or the other, which is energy and which is mass. So science has actually found the answer to the Indian philosophical thought that everything in this world is made of just one thing, one fundamental consciousness. That may be called consciousness there, I will call it electromagnetic wave. Doesn't matter, because absolute knowledge, I said, can be reached anywhere, from any part. The other interesting fact in Indian philosophy, it says that the whole universe is a mirage. It's Maya. You would have heard anyone who has noticed this. Maya or mirage. It's actually not correct. It's what we are seeing is only a mirage. And there is a scientific evidence to that. How? How is that? You see, take hydrogen atom. Hydrogen atom has a nucleus with one proton and an electron which is circulating around. You know that scientists have found that inside this area there is absolutely nothing. And if you bombard this hydrogen atom with electrons, 99% of that crosses through, goes through. What does it mean? Hydrogen atom is virtually nothing. It is empty, completely empty. Even then it is an atom. And all these things are made of atoms. Virtually it means that whatever thing you see is actually like a mirage. There are lots of empty spaces, but they combine, atoms combine to each other, make molecules and make bigger molecules, and things take shape. But in fundamental concept, this is what is happening. Hydrogen atom itself shows you that this is absolutely empty. There is hardly anything inside. One more thing I will tell you, which has a scientific base and philosophical explanation. Take a wave in the sea. This is a wave. This wave consists of what? Water. But can we say that the wave is water? No. Wave is wave. Wave is made of water. And when the wave was not there, water was still there. When the wave will die down, water will still remain. Wave was temporary. It was made of water, but it is not water. In Indian philosophy, we say the wave is like us. We are made of consciousness. We are not consciousness. This wave is not water. We are made of consciousness. And before we were born, we were consciousness. When we die, the consciousness will still remain. But we take birth like a temporary thing in life, and we die down after some time. There is an interesting theory. You go to YouTube and look for a lecture given by a very well-known physicist whose lecture's title is "The World is Born Out of Nothing." The world is born out of nothing. And that scientist, the physicist, gives the example of this hydrogen atom. He says, when scientists saw within this empty space, they found evidence that energy is created and then it dies down. Small energy is created and then it dies down. Energy is created and it dies down. It's a fluctuation. This empty space is actually not empty. It is full of energy which takes shape, manifests and dies down, manifests and dies down. And at the end of this 50-minute lecture in that YouTube which I saw, he says that this whole world is actually only a quantum fluctuation of energy. The quantum fluctuation gave birth to this entire universe, and it will die down one day when the fluctuation dies down, and it will take shape again when a quantum fluctuation takes shape. I am not saying this. A modern physicist is saying this. Fortunately and strangely, this is exactly what every Indian philosopher knows right from 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago, or more than that, Indians had this notion and knowledge. I'll give time, I'll stop once again. Yeah. Yes. And the thing is, when you reach that stage, then you know that you don't need to discuss it with anyone. You don't need to discuss. And you feel self-contained. And actually you have touched upon a very good area which I have not said. On the path of meditation, your life itself gets purified. And purified in the sense that you start feeling different energy sources in your own body and in your own thoughts, in your own feelings. And so by the time that stage reaches, you become completely content with what you have achieved. And achievement is not three-dimensional, it is something else. I know what kind of questions can be there in your minds, but, and also because it is not purely physics. It is, I have touched upon physics, I have taken the base from physics, but I have gone on to explain to you what Indian philosophy is trying to explain.
These ideas, and it's really very interesting. And again, all these things about three-dimensional world and thought they are really not three-dimensional, they are traveling and flying and so on and so forth. It's really, we don't understand, but anyway, it's necessary to explain how it works, why it works, and when you think about it, I really agree with all these things that Mr. Bharti was saying. So please give your questions, your opinions, your ideas, and how do you accept it or do not accept it, some other. We can ask something to clarify some proposals. So,
even in Russian language, I have a gentleman who can translate. If, do not hesitate in asking questions, making comments.
Please tell us more information about meditation. There is
Okay. Good. Wonderful. I am glad that somebody was shown.
Exactly. We don't know exactly what this
Yes.
So if movies and so on, but meditation is something more deeper.
Yes. Wonderful. Very good that you have asked me. What is meditation?
Что такое медитация, спросили коллеги. Слышали, наверное, вы знаете, но понять это не так просто.
There are hundreds of explanations. There are hundreds of people giving you different kinds of ways to meditate. You know, if you are interested, you will find so many people trying to tell you. But my way of meditation is again based on science. You see, I told you everything in this world is a sinusoidal wave. It's a electromagnetic wave. Everything in this world, including our body. In what way? We breathe. We breathe in and we breathe out. It is almost like a sinusoidal wave. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. This is our breathing. Okay? It is a sinusoidal wave. What we need to do while meditation, sit down quietly, concentrate on your breathing, and look at your breathing at each moment of this sinusoidal wave. Each moment. You will very soon realize that what is actually happening, you start concentrating, and at this point of time, you start thinking, oh, what happened in the class yesterday? What did this girl say? Again I was meditating. So you start here. Again here your thought will come somewhere else. Oh, my teacher said this thing. He should not have said this thing. Something like, you will not be able to concentrate on this entire cycle. I can guarantee you, if you can concentrate on this entire cycle only for 25 cycles, you will be deep in meditation. Deep in meditation. But you have to concentrate at each point of this cycle.
25 cycles, how many minutes?
25 cycles of your breathing. 25 cycles. If you can minimum 25 cycles of breathing, if you are all the time with your breathing, you are looking at it, your attention is not diverted, you will be automatically meditating. And that will be the beginning of your meditation. That meditation will not give you all answers, please believe me. But that is the way to go into meditation. And if you are able to do even this much, you will feel so happy and your personality will change. You will become absolutely a different and wonderful person. Only this much is to be done. But believe me, I have been trying to do myself this for the last 6 years. I have not been able to do this. I have not been able to do this because it is very difficult. It looks very simple, but the mind goes, and the higher you go, you don't have problems of children or wife. My mind goes to, oh my, what my son must be doing in America. The other son must be doing something in Singapore. Hundreds of thoughts keep coming. And it's very difficult to concentrate on this cycle. But I am glad you asked this question. And this is the beginning of meditation, my way of meditation, scientific way of meditation. Many people will tell you to light a candle and start gazing at the candle. I tried it, I failed. Many people will tell you, close your eyes and think of a garden and a flower and something. I tried this, I failed. Hundreds of people will tell you hundreds of ways of meditation. They may be right, I am not questioning them. But I couldn't do it. And that is when I kept thinking, I found this to be the most logical answer and most scientific way to meditate. And I will recommend to any one of you who would like to try. Okay? Does that answer your question? Good. I'm happy. Yes?
Should we think of lessons during this meditation, or we can think about, for example, I'm breathing in now, I'm breathing out, or just about nothing?
Just keep looking at your breathing. Just feel the breathing. Going in, coming out. Going in, just look at it. Do not think of anything else. No thinking. Only looking. Only realizing that you're breathing. Breath is coming in, breath is going out. Breath is coming in, breath is going out. No thinking.
Western philosophy has another side of this problem, because we believe that everyone can change his destiny.
Yes.
By his, so the place or the conditions in which you are born not
Correct.
not define your life.
Absolutely right.
But you said it is like a death.
No. Don't misunderstand this. The fact,
Can you explain what?
yeah, the fact that you are born in a poor family is because there is some bad karma, bad action in your previous lives for which you are being punished. But it does not say that you cannot improve your life. You can do, and that is one of the fundamental. I told you that I am not going deeper into the philosophical actions, everyday life. But you can, it does not bar you from doing good work in this life and improving your life condition. The only thing which Indian philosophy say, that if you are able to improve your life in this life, being born in a beggar's family, if you are able to improve and do well in your life, that also is because some of the good karmas that you have done in the past. So it's a mixture of good and bad. You see, our previous president was born in a very, very poor family. He didn't have things to eat when he was a child, but he rose and became the president of India.
But in the end, all your life is defined by the previous actions.
Your life is defined by your previous life's actions or inactions, but it does not stop you from improving your life in this life by doing good work.
What about the next life?
And the next life will be determined by all the previous lives and this life's good work. And this life's good work.
So this is like the circus of
It is a cycle which keeps on going till the time you clear all the debts. Yeah. And actually, just one more diversion here. I have this system of finding realization or attaining nirvana is called bhakti marg, which is the path of devotion. Bhakti marg or path of, I'm sorry, it's called Gyan marg, which is path of knowledge. We are trying to seek knowledge. This is the path of knowledge. There is another form of practice in Indian philosophy which is called bhakti marg, which is the path of devotion. You can assume that this is my God. This is my God. I can assume this. And I put all my devotion into this. There will be a time when my devotion is complete, then I will automatically be granted all the knowledge, absolute knowledge. That is why in India people worship images, you know. A stone is worshipped, hundreds of thousands of god and goddesses are there whose images are made and people worship them. It is a path of devotion. Those people cannot travel on the path of knowledge, because path of knowledge is for educated people, for people like us who can think, rationalize and act. The other path is much easier, devotion, path of devotion, but it takes much longer, because devotion is very difficult to be very, very deep. But it's easier path. Everybody takes course of this way of devotion, trying to reach God. So there are different forms of worship.